How's it going, everybody? Welcome into another sports gambling video where I try to make you a little bit of money. So today I really just want to explain the basics. I know yesterday I put out a video on your week one NFL bets. I wanted to get that one out before tonight because it's Thursday night football and there's a lot of really easy money out there. But today I think it's more important that I explain that so that anyone who was confused yesterday knows what I'm talking about. Really, when it comes to sports gambling, the three most common types of bets are your money line bets, which are essentially who wins a given game, your over under, which is the total number of points scored in that game, or your spread bets, which basically is the same thing as a money line, but there's a handicap attached to it. So whatever team has to win by this many, or they can lose as long as they're within this many. So it's not overly complicated. There's also a lot of prop bets, which are a lot of fun, but those are pretty easy to understand if you understand the rest of these. Basically, where we need to start is what the odds mean. When you open up your sportsbook app, you're going to see all kinds of numbers. Minus 110 on this to happen, plus 200 for this to happen, plus 500 for something else, minus 350 for whatever. What that means really is just how much you would be winning and using everything on a base 100 system. So if you have a bet that is minus, anything, even odds would just say either even or 100. And what that means is you're betting $100 to win $100. That is essentially 50-50. It's not really because of the way casinos set their odds or Vegas sets their odds or whoever. The way they make money is by setting them a little bit worse than they actually are. So really 50-50 is minus 110. But for the sake of understanding how the odds work, 100 or even odds is 50-50. Anything better than that is going to have a minus. Anything more likely to happen, so a favorite to win a game, is going to have a minus attached to it. What that means is that you are betting whatever that amount is to win $100. So if it's minus 150, you're betting $150 to win $100. You also get your $150 stake back, so you would come out on the other side with $250 total. So you win less than you put into it, but you are still profiting. These are fun sometimes because you got a better than 50-50 chance to win money, which is always good. The downside is that you don't win a ton, and especially when you start getting into things like minus 15,000 odds, you're essentially putting in a lot of money to not win very much at all. So I tend to bet somewhat on slight favorites. I have a hard time betting on heavy favorites. I just don't tend to think it's worth the risk. But some people like to put them in parlays just as a little bit of a sweetener. It just kind of depends on your taste. Sometimes they work. Sometimes you're really confident in a favorite. And sometimes you go on to the other side of things and you bet the underdog, because betting the underdog is a good way to make more money than you're putting in. It's essentially the opposite. On underdog odds, if you see something with a plus on it, you are betting $100 to win that amount. So if you're taking a bet at plus 200, you're betting $100 to win $200. You also get your stake back, so you come out on the other side with $300. This is essentially 3-to-1 odds. It'll be written like that some places, but you're going to see mostly plus 200. Or if it's plus 500, then you're betting $100 to win $500. Get your $100 stake back, come out the other side with $600. Underdogs are good because they make you a lot of money, but some of them are pretty unlikely to happen. You can find things up to odds like plus 10,000, which means bet $100 to win $10,000, but is it going to happen? Probably not. It's very, very rare. Those are the games that happen once every 20 years, like betting on 16 seeds to upset the 1 seeds in the NCAA bracket. And even then, you probably wouldn't get into odds that high. So those are what you're looking for if you want to make a lot of money off of a little bit, but they are very high risk. So now that you understand what exactly the odds mean, let's talk about what some of those big three main categories of bets I was talking about are. So a money line bet is the simplest one. If you're betting on a team's money line, you're betting on them to win the game. So if I'm betting on the Colts and the Jaguars game, the Colts money line is minus $400 or minus 400. So I bet $400 on them to win 100. You can bet whatever amount. That's just the baseline. But that they just have to win. There's no strings attached. As long as they win, I win that bet. They don't have to do anything else. What's different is when we get into the spread. In the spread, these I find them best explained if you think of them as addition and subtraction. A team that is a favorite will have a minus spread attached. So let's think of it in terms of a hockey game because those are, to me, the simplest spreads. Usually they're 1.5. So in tonight's game, the Vegas Golden Knights are playing the Dallas Stars. The Vegas Golden Knights are probably minus 1.5 in that game. What that means is that they have to win by more than 1.5 goals. They can't just win the game outright. They have to win by that amount. The Dallas Stars will be plus 1.5. That means they don't have to win the game as long as they're within 1.5 goals, which essentially means they can lose by 1. The reason they have the half attached to it is because Vegas doesn't want a tie. They want you to either win or lose your bet. So they include the half so that the bet can't push. And a push just means that you get your money back, but you don't get any winnings. It's just a wash. So for the Vegas Golden Knights Dallas Stars game, for example, if the score is 3-2, Vegas's score, you're going to have to subtract 1.5. So if you bet Vegas to cover and the score was 3-2, well, you look at it. Now Dallas won the game 2-1.5 because you took 1.5 points off of Vegas's 3. So Vegas did not cover the spread because they didn't still win after you took away their 1.5 goals. Dallas, on the other hand, lost 3-2, but since they were plus 1.5 for the spread, you add 1.5 goals to their score, and now they have 3.5 goals to Vegas's 3, which means they did win in that scenario and covered the spread. It's one of the more complicated ones. It's not all that complicated once you start doing it, but I've noticed that people I've talked to about sports betting have the hardest time understanding what a spread bet is. But just practice, you'll get it. You just got to add or subtract that amount to their score and hope that they still won. Spread betting is really nice when you're rooting for a team and you want to bet on them, but they're a super heavy favorite, so it's not really worth your money. So if you think at the Kansas City Chiefs tonight, if you think that they're going to win by even more than people think, you don't want to bet on them as a money line bet because they're already such a heavy favorite you're not going to make much. But if you bet on them to spread, it's probably minus 7.5 or something like that. That if you bet on them to cover that, you can still get, usually it's minus 110 odds on the spread, which is what Vegas considers even. What that gets you is the ability to bet on a favorite if you think they're going to overperform, but they were going to win anyway. So it's nice for betting on heavy favorites. It's also nice if you have a lot of faith in an underdog, but not quite to win. So you think a team that everyone thinks is going to get blown out is actually going to make it a close game. You can bet on them to cover the spread. Now, the final little area of betting that most games have is the over-under. The over-under is it's not as simple as the money line, but it's pretty simple. The total points scored in that game. So let's go back to our Vegas Golden Knights and Dallas Stars game. The over-under on most hockey games is usually 5.5 goals. They move sometimes depending on the teams playing, but it's usually in that range. So in our case, the score was 3-2 Vegas, which is a total of 5 goals, which hit the under. Usually the under and over are both minus 110, or sometimes they shift a little bit. It depends on the sports book. Some of them will shift the over-under itself. Some of them will just leave it at minus 1, will leave the over-under at 5.5 goals and change the odds on either side. But typically, you're talking about close to even odds when you're betting the over-under. So in this case, we hit on the under because we've had 5 goals, which is less than 5.5. If this game had finished 4-2 because Vegas put in an empty netter or something like that, then you're at 6 goals, and the over hits because you have 6 goals, which is more than 5.5. It's not complicated, and it's a lot of fun to bet on because you don't have to have really a rooting interest for either team. You can just bet on, hey, this is going to be a high-scoring game, or, oh, this is going to be a defensive battle. So those ones are a lot of fun. Prop bets are also a ton of fun, but they're all different. Sometimes in a basketball game, you can bet on the over-under for an individual player's points, or you can bet on who's going to score the first touchdown in a game. And that's where the odds are going to come into play a lot more. You're going to see things like, that's where you can find crazy ones, like plus 1,000 odds on player A to score the first touchdown in the Chiefs and Texans game tonight. So those are fun. I like to do a lot of player props, but that's really all you need to know to get started on sports betting. I'll have some more tips and tricks videos coming out here shortly, But I'm going to start basically dropping a couple videos a week, and in each video I will give you 3 odds boost bets that I really like. Sometimes those will be like the no-brainer promos, or other times they'll just be boosted odds between some sports books that I like. And then I'll give you one pick of the week, which is just a bet that I really like that isn't boosted or anything, but I just think has a really better than average chance of hitting. So that's what you can look forward to. I'll track what you've won if you followed along with me, and we can win some money together. So thanks for watching. Subscribe to this channel to stay tuned and hopefully win yourself a little bit of money, and I'll see you in my next video.